New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
What if the person you think you are is just a fraction of who you truly are? What if years of conditioning and surviving in a challenging world have left you clinging to strategies and beliefs that mask your truest nature? I'm Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are? A show that looks beneath our psychological masks and uncovers our profoundly messy, beautiful, brilliant, tender-hearted essence. Join me as we go in search of the hidden power of our true selves. I'm so glad you're here.
I am so glad you're here tonight. Welcome to Who Do You Think You Are? A podcast to help you learn how to have the highest regard for yourself, how to live from a place of self-respect and self-love, and how to make yourself a priority in your own life. Meet me here each week for curated tips and strategies designed to help you drop your psychological masks, or at least loosen them a bit, connect with your truest essence, and simply live more easily. Because we know that when we approach life this way, we naturally have more generosity, more room, and more love for others. And isn't that a beautiful thing? Dear listeners, welcome to a brand new year. I want to wish you all a happy new year. You know, I always feel that the word happy on Happy New Year should almost have kind of a drop-down menu. Because when I think of Happy New Year, happy, I don't know. I think there may be better words to wish for one another. See what you think. I wish each of you listening a fulfilling year ahead. I wish you a meaningful year ahead. Of course, I wish you a healthy and peaceful year ahead. Peace of mind, health of body and mind and heart. And I wish you a year of connection and camaraderie and community. So when I wish you a happy new year, please know that this is the drop-down menu that I'm thinking of and what I wish for each of you, for each of us this year. You know, many people, I'm stating the obvious here, but many people look at the new year as a fresh opportunity, a clean slate. If the previous year were an Etch-a-Sketch, for those of you old enough to know what that toy is, Etch-a-Sketch, you kind of make drawings with magnets and then you can turn the thing over and shake it up and it has a clean slate. So for those of you who tend to begin each year with a fresh Etch-a-Sketch, perhaps you make what we call New Year's resolutions, right? How many of you have made those resolutions? I know I certainly have. But I think that New Year's resolutions can be a tricky thing because we tend to make them year in and year out, don't we? And what typically happens a few weeks after the new year, I don't know, by mid-February, or it varies, but oftentimes those resolutions are cast by the wayside and we find ourselves back at square one, don't we? So I think what that does is that gives us a chance to lament our ability to be successful. We can be hard on ourselves. We can be harsh, self-critical, punitive. The negative talk in our head can start. What's wrong with me? I started out with so much motivation. I was going to lose those 10 pounds, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that it's a tricky thing, resolutions. I think there's another way to go. And I'd like to talk about that tonight. Because I think New Year's resolutions also are kind of more externally driven. I want to lose those 10 pounds so I'll look good at the wedding. I mean, that's not the only reason, of course, but I think these resolution-y things tend to be these, these externally driven reasons. They tend to be sweeping, I want to lose, I said 10 pounds, but for some people, I want to lose all the weight, or I want to, start a brand new business. And not that there's anything wrong with that, of course, but I think these sweeping desires, I think, are rather incomplete. And I think there's more we can do if we look where? Within. That's often, if not always, the case. To look within for answers, to look within for resources, to look within for purpose. So I think what's more purposeful and deeper, and I think has the potential for lasting results and a feeling of fulfillment is, and I'm going to frame it this way, making promises to ourselves. Making promises. And then going about our days in January, doing what we can to keep those commitments to ourselves. Many of us, most of us, are very good at making promises and keeping them where other people are concerned. Isn't that true? You've held space for people, you've shown up for people, you've done favors for people, right? You're probably quite good at keeping your promise to others. But when it comes to keeping promises to yourself, that may be a bit more of a challenge. So the interesting thing, and another distinction, I think, with resolutions is that when they haven't quite worked in the past, we tend to double down on our efforts. We're gonna hit the gas pedal even harder. We're going to give all we have. But if the underpinnings are the same as they've always been, or driven externally, then the results are likely to be no different than before. Whereas when we make promises to ourselves, there's a lot that goes into that I think brings about a feeling of loving ourselves and tending to ourselves and truly taking care of ourselves. So I want to talk about what's entailed, or at least some of what's entailed, with making promises to ourselves and keeping them as we would keep a promise to a friend. When we keep a promise to ourselves, we're telling ourselves, first of all, that we're worth the time and the effort and the energy. We're worth keeping that commitment to ourselves, right? We tell ourselves we are capable of trusting ourselves. Because conversely, when we break promises that we've made to ourselves, over time, we give ourselves the message. Now, we don't do this with words in our head, but we have the feeling that we let ourselves down, that we're just not there for ourselves. We don't have our own backs. We cannot count on ourselves. And when that energy is allowed to linger and be repeated year in and year out, what happens to our self-esteem? That's easy, right? It gets undermined. It gets eroded. And before you know it, we're on pretty thin ice with ourselves when it comes to loving who we are. You know by now, if you've been listening to this podcast and in fact this station, you know that love is a verb. Love is a verb. Love is action. Love is a way of relating to ourselves and then by extension to others. So when we break our promises, we tell ourselves we don't have our own back. And when we're able to fulfill our promises, we give ourselves the opposite message. Self-worth, and many people struggle with self-worth. And I've talked about the deep reasons for that, and I'll continue to touch on those. But developing self-worth doesn't come from nowhere. And it doesn't come from reading books, despite the fact there are many wonderful books out there on self-love and self-worth. But self-worth doesn't come from that. Self-worth comes from taking what we read, taking what we know, and applying it. Because that sends a sort of feedback loop to our brain that says, again, we are worth our self-discipline. We matter. And when I say we matter, I mean we matter in our own eyes. We matter in our own estimation. So self-worth can very much be a wellspring of self-love. But in order to feel worthy, we have to do things that bring about the feeling of self-worth. Breaking promises brings about a feeling of can't count on myself. That's a feeling, that's an energy, that's a vibration. Conversely, keeping our commitments brings about a feeling of I deserve to take care of myself. I deserve this outcome. I deserve health, peace, community, connection, rest, fun, adventure, hard work. I deserve those things. And that begins to, create, cultivate, bring about self-worth. And if you've been listening to me, you know this by heart now. Self-worth is the foundation of just about everything we do. And it underlies just about all of our interactions. So I invite you to think about this while I look at the comments. I see that I'm not in my comments. Just hold on one second. There we go. Oh, Leandra, blessed New Year to you as well. Good to see you here. And there's a message from Dawn. Hi, Dawn. We teach others how to treat us. Isn't that a fact? So if we don't respect and value our promises to ourselves, what then is the message to others about our worth and value? That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We teach others how to treat us by virtue of how we show up for ourselves. How we vibrate is, it's so important. Every emotion we have, every thought we have carries an invisible vibration. And there's a hierarchy of vibration. When someone walks into a room and they light up the room, they haven't said a word, but they light up the room just with their inner being, they radiate they radiate something: positivity, love, respect. And aren't those people magnetic? Don't you feel drawn to them? Well, that's because of their vibration. Conversely, we all know people, who vibrate on a different level. I have to say a lower level. And there's an energy that surrounds those people. Wherever we go, we bring our energy, and that energy radiates outward. And then you know about the law of attraction. The law of attraction is based on the law of radiation. That which we send out is matched by the universe and the people in it, and they radiate back to us. So the bottom line here is how we feel about ourselves, how we treat ourselves, how the degree to which we hold ourselves in high regard is everything. So I cannot wish you, or myself for that matter, a happy new year without elaborating these other points, because they're all a part of comfort and joy and groundedness and presence. So, Hallmark, if you're listening, create better cards. Create more realistic cards. So, my friends, Happy New Year. With the whole drop-down menu. Looking at the time, I think this is a good moment to take a short break. And when we come back, I'll talk about some of the things we can do to turn this around, to have our own backs, to keep our promises to ourselves. And I'll also do what I always do in the second half, which is read a question or two from my listeners. So I invite you to, when we go to break, just call to mind a promise that you would like to keep to yourself. Whether we say this year or this week, just something that means something to you. And I invite you to think about why that's important. Okay? So stay with me. I'll meet you back here. You are listening to Who Do You Think You Are on New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
What if the person you think you are is just a fraction of who you truly are? What if years of conditioning and surviving in a challenging world have left you clinging to strategies and beliefs that mask your truest nature? I'm Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are? A show that looks beneath our psychological masks and uncovers our profoundly messy, beautiful, brilliant, tender-hearted essence. Join me as we go in search of the hidden power of our true selves. I'm so glad you're here.
And welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are talking about keeping promises to yourself. I always have my podcast topic match my newsletter topic, and I have a newsletter that goes out every Sunday morning. And if you'd like to get on that list, by the way, just email me at Catherine@catherineduca.com, and I'll be sure that in short order, you receive a copy of the newsletter. So the title of the newsletter was Keep Your Promises, period, to yourself, period. And I got a couple of questions of Kathy, why should we keep our promises to ourselves? So if you've read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Is that the book I'm thinking of where the punctuation mark is in the wrong? Punctuation means everything. So this is not about keeping your promises to yourself. It is about keeping your promises, the ones you make to yourself. So I'll have to up-level my grammar. So that's what we're talking about, keeping our commitments to ourselves and being at least as good at that as we are at keeping our promises to other people. And we're talking about the benefits of doing that as well as the costs. And I'd like to mention a few reasons why this phenomenon exists in the first place. Why is it that it's so hard for many people to keep their promises, the ones they've made to themselves? Well, I think it has to do with the fact that we may not have learned how to trust ourselves because, as I said before, keeping our commitments gives us a feeling that we have the capacity to do so. We are competent in the area of tending to ourselves. We can navigate life based on our own values and what we hold dear. And we hold ourselves in a certain way, in a certain vibration, with a certain presence. Well, that all leads to trust. The more we do that, the more we trust ourselves. The deeper our trust in ourselves, the more we can do those things. And on and on and on. It is a feedback loop. But some of us, unfortunately, I'm going to say many of us actually, never learned, because we were never taught, how to trust ourselves. Perhaps too much was done for us. So out of love, our caregivers maybe anticipated our needs and met them in a way that may have eclipsed our own ability to figure certain things out for ourselves. So out of love, we may have been coddled a little too much or indulged a little too much. So we didn't learn to trust our own problem-solving ability. On the other hand, maybe some of us didn't have anything done for us or didn't have enough of the basics done for us. So we were there as children trying to figure it out for ourselves. Maybe we're still trying to figure things out because we weren't taught, we weren't shown, perhaps we didn't have modeling for a certain pathway. That two-sided coin of having too much done for us or not enough done for us will show up as perhaps this difficulty in trusting ourselves. And I'll tell you, by extension, difficulty trusting in other people. difficulty trusting perhaps in someone's love for us. Because one has to be a certain kind of secure inside to be open and receptive to love. I could do a whole show on that, and I will. But that's the basics. So that two-sided coin, keep that in mind. It could be that we were talked out of trusting ourselves. Maybe we knew what to do. Maybe we read the vibe in our family. Maybe we were aware of some things in our household that may not have been the healthiest, but we were talked out of that. We were told, don't be silly. It's your imagination. It's not really happening. You know how dad is. That's just mom being mom. And our instincts, oftentimes our correct instincts, were not validated. We were talked out of what we knew to be true. And so that eroded our self-trust and our ability to evaluate and our ability to be discerning. So those are two counts on which trusting ourselves may have been lighter than it should be. We can lack a basic sense of entitlement. Now, that's a tricky word. So when I say entitlement, I don't mean entitled, like take what you want, the world owes you, entitlement. No, I mean entitlement, the kind of entitlement we all share. Each of us has the right to take up space on this planet. Each of us has the right to express our voice. Each of us has the right to ask for what we need. And so if we lack those basic entitlements, we are not going to be rooted and grounded. We're going to be sort of hovering, looking for validation from other people. Is this okay? Is that okay? Am I okay? You see how that happens? And this can give way to a general feeling, a general vibration that I'm just not good enough. I don't qualify for love. I don't qualify for someone counting on me. I don't qualify for counting on myself. I'm not enough. And you know, an interesting thing happens when we don't feel like we're enough. Nothing feels like it's enough. When we don't feel like we're enough, we can't, it's like we have a hole within us. There's a leak of some sort. There's no bottom, right? And so when there's no bottom, there's a type of emptiness that results. And what do we do about that? Well, we try to put all sorts of things in there to plug up that hole. We do it in so many ways, you know. I mean, is there enough, are there enough carbs on the planet to fill the void that comes from my parents did too much for me, or they didn't do enough for me, or I didn't get validated, or they told me, I didn't know what I was talking about when I knew exactly what I was talking about? Are there enough carbs on the planet to address that, to fill that hole? No. Can you go to the mall? I mean, can Amazon deliver enough to fill that void? I don't think so. I don't think so. Is there enough alcohol? Are there enough drugs? Can you scroll enough? Can you get enough likes or followers to fill that particular hole? Some experience it as an abyss. Cover it up, put masks, polish the facade, get stuff, have things look pretty, be made up. Oh, enough about me. I've tried those things many, many, many times for many years. I have to say, they die a hard death. I still have to watch myself because it's too easy to fall into the trap of trying to, what's that expression, lipstick on a pig? You try to polish up with a pretty persona, a pretty exterior. You try to polish up so nobody knows about that hole. This has a long tail to a New Year's, if you will, resolution, or what we're talking about here, keeping our promises to ourselves. This is why it doesn't work. This is why you can promise each and every January and double down and hit the gas harder. Because guess what? You have the other foot on the brake of everything I'm talking about. Hit the gas, pump the brake at the same time. What happens? You spin your wheels. What happens? You burn rubber. What happens? Your self-esteem erodes. What happens? You feel badly about yourself. So, I hope I've conveyed the importance of trying to wrap your mind around the sacredness of keeping promises to yourself. Because there are specific, concrete, tangible things we can do to work with ourselves. It's not a pass-fail. It's not a, I did it, then I didn't do it. It's not a light switch. We talked last time or the time before about either or kind of thinking, black or white, yes or no, good or bad, success or failure, right? We covered that. This is not, we don't want to apply that paradigm to this kind of thing. So no light switch, more like a dimmer. We're going to work with ourselves. So I invited you during the break to think about one promise you'd like to make and you'd like to keep. And I asked you, or I'm asking you now, to visualize how you would feel if you were able, inch by inch, or perhaps drop by drop, nothing sweeping, no gushers, no jump off the high dive, drop by drop. That's the surest way. That's the surest way to achieve something. Slowly, but what do I always say? Systematically. And that will get you there. So there are things we can do. So, number one, now these will sound, none of this will strike you as new, I promise you. But I hope in the putting it all together with the backdrop of the conversation so far, I hope it'll give you a new outlook. And I hope you will feel empowered to take this on. I see a couple of comments. I'm going to go there in a moment. Dawn and Patricia, thank you. We want to set clear and realistic goals. It's okay, of course, I want, lose weight. That's probably the most popular one. I want to lose weight and fit into my jeans. Okay, that's a perfectly fine goal. But it's actually more effective if you break that down. What do I need to do to be able to fit into those jeans? And, if they're a little looser today and a little looser tomorrow, that's part of the process. So it's a clear goal. How about for this week, I'm going to eat a certain way and hydrate, of course, and maybe move my body. And maybe even that's too much. So you want to break the goal down into bite-sized, manageable steps that you feel pretty confident you can meet. Because if you overshoot the runway, you're likely to get discouraged. So clear and realistic goals, vague goals, hazy goals, sweeping big gulp goals don't work as well. Not that they don't work, they don't allow us to be in the process in the way that I've described. And I think I saw Dawn say that I advocate reasonable, realistic promises. Yes, Dawn. Meaning, if we set goals or promises of change that are huge leaps, it can be a setup for failure. What do you think, Kathy? I say, of course. That's what we're talking about right here. And Patricia says, I keep promises to other people, but quite often break my own to myself. What is this procrastination about that doesn't get played out with other people, right? Well, I covered a few of those before the break, but it just occurred to me that, with other people, first of all, so many things. Number one, easier to give than to receive, even if we're the recipient of our own benevolence. It's still easier to give than to receive. Then we bring in the notion of judgment. When we fulfill our promises, and not that this is necessarily the main driver, but it might be one of the top, people will hold us in esteem. People will like us. We don't want to disappoint people. We don't want to disappoint people because we care about them. We don't want to disappoint people because we don't want to lose them. We don't want to have them angry with us. So, people pleasing comes into this. This doesn't mean we're not a good person by nature and we don't want to really help people. Of course, that's there. But another layer or two that I think contributes to self-procrastination are these things. When it comes to ourselves, we can easily think, oh, I didn't get to it. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll take better care of myself tomorrow. I'll eat more in the way I know serves me tomorrow. It's just me. I'll get to it. But you look at your watch and the time could be never. So I think that's in there, Patricia. Tell me if that answered your question or if it sparks something more. Janine, small incremental change can be so powerful. I did not engage in goal setting or making resolutions this year, just gradual habit formation. Then outcomes happen organically. Yeah, I wish I had said that, Ginny. That's beautifully said. Beautifully said. Incremental. And then I'm going to add to that the why. The why. Yes, it did, Patricia. Answered your question. Good. Tick, tick, tick. Good. It's important when we find that we don't meet our promise to ask ourselves why. Is it a worthy problem? It is, if I do this, I'm going to be successful. And being successful brings up other concerns. What if I'm successful and my best friend isn't? What if I'm successful and I get noticed? What if I get acknowledgement or accolades? Oh, what if people pay attention to me and I'm not used to that and I'm uncomfortable with that? So we always have to peel it back and look at what the why, what our why is, or our why not. I didn't do this. I didn't do what I said I was going to do because. Now, you're going to hit top layer reasons. You're going to hit because I didn't have the time, because I was busy, because someone called and I was on a long conversation. But look below those external reasons, because we know, we know that when we have something as a priority and we want that for ourselves, we don't let things get in the way. Not habitually, anyway. Of course, there's always the unforeseen, but I'm talking about habitual patterns. Right? So we're setting clear, realistic goals. We're not doing anything sweeping. We are breaking goals down to bite-sized steps. Maybe we want to create a routine for ourselves. If I want to do X or Y, maybe I'm going to give time to that task and I'm going to build it into my schedule. Maybe I'm going to put it on my calendar. Maybe I'm going to decide to do it when I wake up in the morning or before my bedtime ritual. Or maybe I'm going to do it on my lunch hour. Whatever the case is, we envision giving it the priority in our schedules that we would to another person or to a business meeting or, a luncheon date with a friend. We put it, we block it in. So simple. We know this, but doing it, practicing it is where the payoff really exists. And another thing I want to say, this is so important. I've begun this myself, actually, and that is accountability. Accountability. Now, we always want to cultivate accountability to ourselves, by ourselves, but there's nothing like an accountability partner. So I got myself a partner for this, a week ago, and it's to drink more water. I hate water. I'm never thirsty. I do not like to drink. I know that's freakish. I know. And to exercise. I have a pretty sedentary job. I'm at my laptop. And plus, I don't like to move. I like to drink water more than I like to move. I frankly don't quite know why. I was athletic in my earlier days and played sports. But for some reason, that's the case. So I've analyzed it as best I can. Now I think I just needed to get to work and get myself an accountability partner. And I had a conversation with this person earlier today, and we asked each other, how does each of us want to be supported? Because of course we understand we want to strike that balance between, okay, you're doing your best, and acknowledge yourself for that without letting yourself off the hook for the same, resistance we've always had. So my accountability partner and I talked about how we want to be supported. We were in agreement that we'd like to be gently, of course, we're gentle people, called out or, questioned about, okay, you said you were going to drink so much water. How did you do? And where did you notice resistance? Where did your yes, but show up? Yes, I wanted to do it, but this happened. Yeah, I was going to, but that happened. Where did that show up for you? So we gave each other permission to kind of push the envelope a little bit. That's what accountability is. It's not, okay, you did it. Okay, you did your best and that's it. You did your best. Yes. How can you keep this commitment a little more tomorrow? And if tomorrow you find that you couldn't, well, what's your why about that? So it's a continuing, deepening, ongoing process. No pass fail. Make sense out there? Okay. And still Bill writes, how about if I make tuning in to you on Sundays as my goal? Well, I support that. I really support that. Thank you, Bill. I would love to know you're here, and I would love to support you in your promises. I know that you've made some, some life-changing promises to yourself, and I know that you've kept them. But if there are more, I'm here for you. So I love that goal. And Dawn, procrastination is full of underlying self-doubt and harsh judgment. It is. It is. I don't allow my clients to say beyond one time that they're lazy. I tell you, in all these years working with clients, I have yet to meet a lazy person. I've met plenty of people who procrastinate. I've not met a lazy person because, to your point, on procrastination is a symptom of something else. And it's often, if I get the thing done, then, other things will happen. I'll stand out. I'll be conspicuous. People will notice. People will compliment me. Somebody might be envious of me. Somebody might try to criticize me. Somebody might throw a tomato at me. Someone might feel badly about themselves. So I think I'm just going to play it small and call it, push the goalpost further down and call it procrastination and label myself lazy. So that's a very important point. So at this time, I'm going to, because I could talk, wow, I need another hour tonight, but I'm going to go to a question from a listener who wrote in from my newsletter. And it's a real live expression of how this conflict shows up. So this is a question from Nora. And Nora writes, I have a habit of making resolutions, or at least one, at the start of each new year. They've usually involved improvements in things such as weight loss and decluttering. Somehow, and I have no idea how or why this happens, I end up in a worse predicament before I started. I gain more weight and seem to collect even more stuff. I feel stuck or worse, as though I'm going in reverse. I want this time to be different, but I'm afraid it won't be. I'm open to help if you can offer some. Signed, Nora, aka Stuck in a Rut. Well, Nora, if you're listening, thank you so much for your very frank and candid situation here. Somehow, and I have no idea why or how, I end up in a worse predicament than before I started. I gain more weight and seem to collect even more stuff. I feel stuck or worse, as though I'm going in reverse. Well, let's bring together everything we've talked about tonight. Nora, my suggestion would be that you, if you can, that you take the focus off of the task and bring it more within yourself. Connect to why this goal is so important. I mean, of course, anyone listening can think of the obvious, but what is the most important reason for this for yourself? And then I invite you to ask yourself very quietly, be very still, create a space to hear yourself. Do you feel you deserve that feeling? Do you feel you are worthy of that, of living and embodying that outcome? Because if the answer is no, then write me another question, because we'll have something else to talk about there. If your answer is yes, you do feel worthy, no reason not to, then I invite you to embrace your worthiness as you would a child, as you would an innocent young person, dare I say, the little person in you, the child within, and embrace that and say, yes, sweetheart, you are worthy of feeling comfortable, of feeling good in your own skin, of feeling healthy, of feeling your body, wearing your body, letting your body carry you in a more fluid, comfortable way. And then I invite you to steep in that experience. Really feel that. Why? I'll tell you, this is so important. Bottom line, we gravitate toward, no, I'll say it this way. We will do anything to avoid pain. We will avoid pain more than we gravitate toward pleasure. Avoiding pain is the number one thing, avoiding discomfort. So we just kind of, at this point in life, just intuitively know how to navigate life in a way that keeps us as comfortable as possible. So, Nora, when you picture your young self and you picture the feeling of, dropping some excess weight and being more in your skin comfortably, steep in that feeling. Make it come alive in you, because if you like it, and I suspect you will, you are more likely to be attracted to that feeling, because doing things, as I've mentioned here, step by step, small, clear, but systematic steps, bite-sized, manageable, you will experience, I feel confident, a sense of mastery over yourself, a sense of loving and tending to yourself. And I submit to you that is going to feel more delicious than just about anything else. Your own self-love and self-respect, I think, will be something you will want to savor. So take your eye off of the goal, off of the task, and bring it into yourself and think, am I worthy of having that outcome come true? Am I worthy of embodying the way that would feel? If the answer is yes, live in that vibration, bathe in that vibration, bask in it until you embody it. And then I think, as Janine said, your progress will feel more organic, less like have-tos, less to do, and more, I like this, I want to. And isn't that the whole goal? To shift from I have to I get to, I want to, and I love to. I love to love myself. It's not selfish. It's not self-centered in the way we normally think of being self-centered. I'll tell you what's going to happen. You will up your vibration. And when this kind of vibration is elevated, there is no arrogance associated with it. And there is, it's not about ego or superiority or anything like that. It is about being in it for the enjoyment of the experience. And that changes us. And it does two things. It does many things, but I think it makes us more magnetic, just because who doesn't want to be around that? And you know what else it does? It gives people a quiet, wordless permission to do that as well. It's the I'll have what she's having. I'll never forget, I'll say quickly because we're almost out of time. The very first time I got this, it was when I was new to this philosophy, religious science of mind, and I was studying at the Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey. And I was on my way to a class, and I had to get gas. And I was at a gas station. I rolled down the window, and I just said, please, whatever, regular, please, credit card, something like that. And the attendant said, what's with you? You seem so happy. And I said, I am. Nothing happened to me, nothing spectacular. It was a regular old, Tuesday night. And he kind of said, I want what you want. I want what you have. Excuse me. I want what you have. Just from rolling down the window, because that was my energy. I loved myself. And without, consciously thinking about it, I think I loved everyone, including him. And he got it. And it was a very sweet moment. And so, dear listeners, on this January evening, I wish you a happy New Year. Happy in all the ways we've talked about. I wish you a year where you resolve not to change who you are, but a year in which you resolve to be who you are. Take good care of yourself. Stay connected this week to those of us in the ethers who went through this conversation together. I thank everyone who contributed in the chat. And to anyone who may be listening in the future, I feel connected to you too. I don't know who you are or when you'll be listening, but I just feel just a commonality and just a connectivity to everybody. So let's take one another with us. Okay? Leandra, you're more than welcome. Thank you so much. Everyone, have a good week. If you're worried about anything tonight, think about this. Your troubles will be there in the morning. Your problems will be there in the morning to problem solve. For tonight, let it go. Let it go. Know that you are loved and know that you are love. So until we meet next week, hopefully, I wish you well. You have been listening to Catherine Duca here on Who Do You Think You Are on New Thought Media Network. Good night.